Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the Missoula City Council meeting of December 11th, 2017 to order. If you'd please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. And please let the record note that with the exception of Ms. Armstrong, Ms. Brock, and Mr. Wilkins, all council members are present this evening. We have minutes of the meeting of November 27th. Without objection, they'll be approved. Seeing none, we'll move on to our committee schedule for the week of December 11th. Ms. Rabine.
Thanks. Have a full slate of committees this coming Wednesday, the 13th of December. The Parks and Conservation Committee will meet from 8:55 in the morning to 10:05. Administration and Finance Committee will follow from 10:10 to 11:10. Land Use and Planning will meet from 11:15 to noon. And Land Use and Planning will have a second meeting for most of the afternoon between 1 and 4 o'clock p.m. All those meetings being held again Wednesday, the 13th of December, right here in the council chambers at 140 West Pine.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. Any changes to the committee schedule? Seeing none of those, we'll move on to the public comment portion of our agenda. This is your opportunity to comment on items not elsewhere on the agenda this evening. Any general public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name's Marcy Hammond. I was born in Butte, Montana. I am a homeless person living in an RV. I am a homeless person living in an RV. I'm just letting you know that I'm one of the people that will be coming and talking to you on December 18th. I was raised in Lolo. I'm a Montana girl through and through. I was in high school in Hillgate, and when I was in high school, I made my money babysitting. And I was stopped when I was 16, and it was my first encounter with a police officer. He seemed nice. I had my first driving ticket. I went to see the judge, Wally Clark, and was given defensive driving and punishment of the whole encounter. The punishment was my defensive driving course, 8-hour class on a weekend, and did a lot for me. I was impressed with how the police was working, how everything was nice and everything was helpful. And so I was inspired to go on a couple ride-alongs back in the 1980s. Now it's not the same. Your officers are combative, accusatory, quick to fight, and that's just the cops. 2 months ago, I came here on August 25th. Back then, I actually was walking around limping because I had broken my ankle at one of the parks here in town. The second time, I came in talking about how the city is harassing us. We have an injunction in regards to it at that particular time. Now, after being picked on by the Missoula's city finest, I'm forced into a spotlight, and it's the wrong spotlight. Why do I say that? Because the Missoula article talks about a Missoula man living in an RV for almost 2 years. That's this gentleman and I. His name is John. Very familiar with the city of Missoula. First of all, it's a lie, because when I first came in, it was August 25th, and it was an injunction, so it wasn't quite a year. So I brought that to the attention in August, and it wasn't, it said in this article that we missed a court date, and to be honest, yes, we did miss a court date, but here's the understanding. The defendant doesn't get jail time, so there's no need for a public defender. Although we have the whole Missoula prosecution against the little fight, the Honorable Karen Townsend should recuse herself from this fight because as of 2006, she was a prosecutor against John when he was on trial. She was also up for re-election as a county attorney. Judge Warren should recuse himself from this. Why? Because when I was at a restraining order for a temporary order of protection, he was calling John derogatory names. John was not there to defend himself. Now, if all of that is legit, public defender doesn't need to have, a public person doesn't need to have jail time, and city goes against, it should be a fair trial. But it's not. Why is it a fight? Anyway, on the 25th, we explained that it was a Ninth Circuit Court that said that it was unlawful to ticket people. So far, we have 4 tickets. Would it be fair? No. Why? All of the Missoula prosecution against John and a lady named Susan Firth, and she's, for some reason, has a vendetta against our family, or at least John. And one more fact, John, she's been harassing and stalking him since 2012 or longer. I seem to be flying by under the radar when it comes to these charges. John gets them until it comes to the law, and then my name is on these court documents. The newspaper article goes to say that we missed a court date, like I was saying, and to be true, it was missed only because the article were filed as a postmark date rather than the date that it was served. So if you understand, the decision was made without a hearing because Susan Firth filed a motion and the Honorable Karen Townsend certified it with the gavel. And these same charges are filed in the municipal court. Double jeopardy. I am extremely unsure how I need to end this, but there's more to be talked about. I have also a neighbor that her paperwork didn't manage into the newspaper the next day. It was only on the website, and her name was Kayleen, and she talked about how scary it was living right next to us in August. So we must have been a neighbor then and not living in an RV, but that's beside the point. She sat by and told you, sir, how scared she was and how she was feared for her life. And then just recently she was arrested by the officer that was giving her a temporary order of protection. She yelled at him, kicked him, sicked her dogs on him, and wanted to get a gun and her marijuana. And you had her feared against us. And so I don't understand how it's fair. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hammond. Any other general public comment this evening?
Hi there.
Yes, ma'am.
Find my written thing so I can, okay. Hi, my name is Jessica Vizzuti, and I live here at 514 West Alder, here in the heart of Missoula. I'm here today to strongly urge City Council to move to action on the issue of intoxicated and mentally disturbed people who live on our streets in our community. I have increasingly needed to call the police in my own neighborhood because our park has become a place for people to dry out as they wait for being able to go somewhere else, to the homeless shelter. I no longer feel safe walking to my local grocery store, especially when the response to the problem continues to be that we are aware of the problem. I appreciate that the police are aware of the problem, but I would like to see action in the form of an active and friendly police presence in my area. Recently, myself and my infant son were verbally assaulted and chased by a person who is ill or suffering from addiction 2 blocks from my home. I found the police response inadequate, and I asked for your help to encourage engaged and friendly patrols in my neighborhood in addition to just being aware. I would really like to build a positive relationship with everyone in my community, whether they're homeless or dealing with a problem. But in short, if you would like to know more details of my concerns or the issues we're having in my neighborhood, I am happy to connect in person or on the phone. I don't want to take up more time, but I just want to bring it to your attention. This is an ongoing and growing issue in my neighborhood, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Vizzuti. You will hear from Jessica Miller in my office tomorrow, and we'll get some more detail. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Moore. This previous lady is not gonna get the help she needs. We gotta have our money to spend on incremental finance. I see in the minutes, we're getting ready to have a bond of $723,514. Some people like me think that really is the taxpayers' money. But we're going to start an education class on this incremental financing so that people will know that it's free money, so that the mayor and the city council don't have to worry about it because it's free money. To prove it's free money, the Stockman Bank gave $10,000.
So, Mr. Moore, you're kind of difficult to hear anyway, so if you
Oh,
cover
I'm
up the
sorry.
microphone, that's even worse.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Rattlesnake Dam removal inches closer with Given Tuesday gift from Stockman Bank, $10,000. $10,000. Wasn't too long ago that the taxpayers of Missoula gave the Stockman Bank $1.5 million. $1.5 million. So I figured this out. We're going to start making a donation, incremental financing gift to Stockman Bank, give him another $1.5 million, and then he'll give us a $10,000 donation in addition to the other $10,000. I don't see how we can lose doing that. Free money, free money. Letter to the paper. Missoula leaders ignore city needs. It was amusing to read the November 26th article interviewing Mayor John Engen when he was surprised to learn after 12 years that property taxes were an issue for the voters. That is definitely what the Missoulian paper said. The mayor and his cohorts on city council have been spending like drunken sailors in building more government in Missoula. After his surprise at the causes is mind-boggling, without the help of his former employees at the Missoulian, he would not have beat his challenger. I don't know if it's true or not. They should have worried less about building the bigger city and take care of the city they have, one full of potholes, gridlock, and growing crime. I saw a letter one time where somebody said in response to something I did that crime is minor. Crime is horrible in Missoula. Horrible in Missoula.
And at 3 minutes,
Well, can I have another 10 seconds?
sure,
Okay.
if it's 10 seconds.
Wake up, Missoula. Your leaders need to quit worrying about climate change, the United Nations, and Agenda 21, and serve you, the people.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Any other general public comment this evening? All right, seeing none, we will move on to our consent agenda. Items on that agenda were approved unanimously in council standing committees, and we save a little time on Monday evenings by considering these items all at once. Ms. Rabine will read the list of consent agenda items aloud, so those in the audience and those at home will know what we're considering. We'll take comment on those items before we vote. Ms. Rabine.
Thanks. We have 7 items on tonight's consent agenda, and as always, the first is to approve claims, which are the city's accounts payable. The council approves those every week. And so the first item is to approve claims in the amount of $3,976,706.09 for checks that are dated tomorrow, December 12th, 2017. Number 2 is to adopt a resolution of intention to annex and incorporate within the boundaries of the city of Missoula 2 parcels of land that are located east of Hyberta Street and south of 3rd Street West for the described in petition number 9403 and annexation exhibit as lots 23A and 23B of the Hawthorne Edition, and zone these parcels OP3, public lands and institutional, along with a portion of the South 3rd Street right-of-way that extends from the west boundary of lot 23A east to the existing city limits at Grove Street, and setting a public hearing on that matter on January 8th, 2018. 2018. My 8's kind of screwed up there, but it's January 8th, 2018. Number 3 is to appoint Kathy Bickenhauser as a professional member of the Historic Preservation Commission for a term that begins January 1st, 2018 and ends on December 31st, 2019. Number 4 is to appoint Blake Nicolazzo to an alternate position on the Design Review Board to fill the existing term that begins immediately and ends on December 31st, 2018. Number 5 is to adopt a resolution of intention to sell 2 surplus 1999 Pierce Saber Type 1 fire engines to the town of Stevensville for the amount of $400,000 and to sell a surplus Mako air compressor and cascade system to the East Missoula Fire District for the amount of $5,000. Number 6 is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a professional engineering services agreement for the Community Development Block Grant Invest Health Missoula Sidewalks Project with Territorial Landworks Incorporated of Missoula, Montana, in amount not to exceed $84,361. Number 7 is to adopt a resolution directing the City of Missoula Parks Department staff to negotiate and finalize encroachment easements and revocable license agreements and authorize the mayor to sign the related documents necessary to resolve encroachments into Greeno Park.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. Mr. Nugent notes that the correct amount in item number 5 was $40,000 for the record. Anyone in the audience care to comment on any of the items on the consent agenda this evening? Questions or comments from council members? Mr. DeBari?
Not sure what number it was. It was item number 3, appointment to the Historic Preservation Committee, and I just wanted to say that we're happy to appoint Ms. Bickenhauser back to a seat on the HPC, and I know that in the past we've had attendance problems with members of the commission making meetings, and that was something that we discussed so that we could hopefully have a quorum and continue to do the good work that the Historic Preservation Commission does in the community. So I just wanted to make, I guess, a further announcement that we gave that a lot of consideration during the appointment process, and we're hopeful that Ms. Bickenhauser can attend as many meetings as she can and make the contribution we know she can make.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
On the consent agenda, items 1 through 7, Becerra. Becerra votes yes. Cares? Cares votes yes. DeBari? DeBari votes yes. Hedall? Hedall votes yes. Hess? Hess votes yes. Jones? Jones votes yes. Marler? Marler votes yes. Von Lossberg? Von Lossberg votes yes. West? West votes yes. Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 9 ayes and 3 absent.
And the consent agenda is approved. I'm unaware of any comments from city staff, agencies, boards, commissions, authorities, or the community forum this evening. We do have one special presentation in the form of a proclamation. Whereas the Republic of Finland declared its independence from Russia on December 6, 1917, and whereas Finnish immigrants contributed significantly to the history, economy, arts, and culture of Montana, and whereas descendants of Finnish people continue to contribute to Missoula and Montana's vibrant cultural and economic well-being, and whereas December 6, 2017 marks the 100th anniversary of Finnish independence, now therefore I, John Engen, Mayor of the City of Missoula and the State of Montana, hereby recognize the month of December as Finland's 100th anniversary of Independence Month. And that goes out to my friend Chase Laxo and our other Finnish friends in the community. We will move on to communications from the mayor. That's me, and I don't have anything this evening. We'll begin general comments from council members with Ms. Jones.
Thank you. I did have a comment tonight. I was going to talk about this last week, but we had a very long meeting, so I put it off until now, and that is the fact that Judge Harry Pregerson, who was the 9th Circuit Court judge based out of Los Angeles, passed away November 25th. He was 94 years old. He was pretty much one of my favorite judges ever, and he had a wonderful reputation, and I wanted to tell a few small, quick stories about him. So the Ninth Circuit, of course, encompasses Montana, and Judge Pregerson liked and loved Montana a lot and actually made many trips here, not just on cases, but also to visit the state. But his reputation was large nationally. He was one of the most liberal appellate judges out there. He was a social engineer. He followed his conscience. He grew up in a very poor section of East Los Angeles, and he carried that with him his whole life and never forgot his roots. When he was being questioned for confirmation for the Ninth Circuit Court, Senator Cranston of Wyoming asked him whether he would follow the law or his conscience, and Harry said he would definitely follow his conscience. And when he was further asked, well, what was his conscience based on, he said it was based on the Marine motto, Semper Fidelis, the Army motto of Leave No Man Behind, the Boy Scout oath, and the 10 Commandments. And they went ahead and they voted him in. And for him, Leave No Man Behind meant he did a huge amount of work for the homeless in Los Angeles, setting up shelters and food kitchens, and was instrumental in that. And as we discuss affordable housing this spring, I think we should keep that in mind, Leave No Man Behind. It's a great application. A couple of interesting facts about him. When the Century Freeway was being built through Los Angeles, a lawsuit regarding it came to him, and as a district court judge at that point, he halted construction on it and mandated that they had to provide affordable housing for all of the neighborhoods that they were disrupting, and also job training. The Century Freeway through Los Angeles wound up costing twice as much because of Harry Pregerson. They also named an interchange after him by the time it was all done. In Montana, Judge Pregerson was the mediator for saving the 10th Street Bridge located in Great Falls, which I'm going to check out next time I'm there. I guess he was instrumental in that, and even as a mediator wrote poetry to both sides regarding the 10th Street Bridge and ultimately saved that structure. He was also instrumental in a 1994 case involving Flathead Lake and the Salish Kootenai tribes, as there were issues regarding who truly got to control the lake that was within the reservation, and Pregerson wrote the opinion and said the tribe got to control the lake. And he was a big advocate for Indian law and Native American rights. So the last thing I want to leave with you is that a few days before he died, he sat on the court up until this fall, and then he was ill for a few weeks before he died. He was 94 years old, and a couple of days before he died, he turned to his wife, Bern, and he said, "The hardest thing is that I don't have strength anymore to help people." And I think service and local government and the judiciary are all difficult jobs, but I wanted to leave you with that because Harry Pregerson added a lot to our world, and especially Montana.
Ms. Hiddle. Ms. Marler?
Thank you for the proclamation for Finland's 100th anniversary of independence. I was a foreign exchange student back in the 80s, which seems like a really long time ago, to the northern land of Finland. It's a wonderful place. It had a big impact on my worldview and cold tolerance. And I remember when I was there as a foreign exchange student, and it was the Independence Day, and it was really impressive to me just what kind of a somber, really thoughtful holiday it was, coming from, teenager 4th of July, Independence Day celebrations in the United States. It was just an interesting contrast, and I was happy to be a part of it then. I appreciated hearing about it now. I can't believe it's been 100 years since I was in Finland. Well, it feels like it's been 100 years since I was in Finland. So I'll just close by saying Hyvä Suomi, which is good job, Finland.
Ms. Becerra? Nothing. Anything? We're going slowly tonight. Mr. Von Moss.
I just wanted to thank, and maybe clarify a little bit, wanted to thank Stockman Bank for the donation they made of $10,000 to Trout Unlimited. Montana Trout Unlimited has been a great steward and project partner in projects all across the state. We're fortunate to be able to partner with them here on the Rattlesnake Creek restoration opportunity, and I know Montana Trout Unlimited was appreciative of that $10,000 contribution that helps them get a little further along the way toward building some resources that they can use in partnership with us when it's clear what the right restoration path is for Rattlesnake Creek. Thanks.
Mr. Hess. Mr. DeBari.
So I wanted to make a comment about the editorial that was in the Missoulian on Sunday called "A Time to Discuss Details of Plans for the Riverfront Triangle." And I know that that is a very complicated project, but it was clear from the editorial that the editorial board, or those that put it together, didn't really have a firm understanding of the agreements that came before the MRA board and were discussed a number of times. And unfortunately, they, as I understand it, didn't take the time to ask staff or the administration or city councilors about anything that had come before us, or a number of us, 3 of us actually, city councilors have attended a number of meetings to work through the latest agreement that was highlighted in the editorial. And unfortunately, no members of the editorial board attended any of the public meetings either. So I just thought that it was a little bit odd that we wound up with an editorial that was a bit of a non sequitur and didn't really have a firm grasp of the facts or take advantage of the opportunities to understand the facts of the case. A number of times, people have come and wanted the city council to be inquisitive about things that take place, and I think we all have every interest in the press and members of the public asking hard questions about the business of the city, especially when it is a complicated project and when it involves a lot of city resources in both time and money. But unfortunately, the editorial really wasn't written from a position of knowledge. It was written from one of ignorance, and I don't really think that it helped advance anyone's understanding of this issue. So I'm hopeful that we can make some clarifying comments about that editorial and bring to light for the public the salient facts associated with the various agreements, and help folks understand that there's been an awful lot of work, years worth of work that have been put into working with the Fox Triangle partners to craft an agreement that ensures that the greatest benefit for city residents is reached with the minimum amount of risk. So I'll look forward to sharing more information with members of the public and the press about this in the days to come.
Ms. West.
I'm going to take a completely different direction. So the Missoula Maid Fair was this last Sunday, and I just wanted to take a moment to, which has 200 local vendors and thousands of people in our community turned out, and I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to all those people who support local art and local artists and make everyday lives like mine possible. So thanks.
Thank you all. We will move on to committee reports. Items listed here weren't approved unanimously in council standing committees. The chairperson of that committee will make a motion reflecting the committee's actions, and will take comment on these items as well. Our lone committee report this evening happens in Administration and Finance. Ms. Karras?
I move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of $723,514 maximum principal amount of tax increment senior subordinate urban renewal revenue bond series 2017 North Reserve Scott Street Urban Renewal District to finance certain infrastructure and street improvements, and prescribing the form and terms thereof and the security therefore.
That motion is in order. Is there discussion on the motion? Mr. DeBari?
So I'm the person who sent this to committee reports tonight, and I just thought that there really wasn't a sufficient amount of time to have counselors ask questions if we had to. We were running out of time in committee, and I know it's also a complicated project that involves public resources, and I thought it would be worth having Mr. Behan be present in case folks wanted to ask him questions, because he wasn't able to attend the committee meeting. So it wasn't that I have any fundamental opposition to the project. I just thought it was a good opportunity to take a little bit more time and have folks ask questions if they needed to.
I await your question, sir.
Okay, well, I asked the question, it was subsequent to the meeting, because I wanted to try to get an understanding of how, about the nature of the various parity bonds. I know it's a little bit esoteric, but maybe Mr. Behan can talk a little bit about subsequent bonds being parity bonds, and also talk a little bit about if there are any, what the opportunity is if for subsequent bonds that are issued to actually hold senior rights over the ones that are currently existing as parity bonds.
Mr. Behan.
Well, I'll take the questions, I think, in reverse order, and I think that actually it's going to end up being a little clearer than the strategy will be a little bit clearer than it seems to be when you start bandying about bond lingo of parity and subordinate and this and that. So basically, in moving into that relatively new district that has an enormous amount of need over there in terms of infrastructure, particularly road, water, and sewer, we almost immediately after the district was created were approached by 3 developers to help out in projects over there. At the same time, we initiated and actually completed, by the time those were done, a master planning effort for that area, a very extensive master planning effort. It turned out that all 3 of those projects were exactly what the master plan was hoping for in the areas that they happen to be in. Those were an expansion of the Brett's RV and Marine facility, the construction of Consumer Direct, the Home Health Care's national headquarters, and expansion of the North Side neighborhood to the west, which has long been a desire of the neighborhood and their planning efforts, through the Scott Street Village project, a 3-phase project, a residential project that was trying to put together affordable workforce housing as best they can in Missoula these days. And that's at the corner of Rogers and Scott. To be able to help all 3 of those projects, we put together a bond package that worked for a purchaser. In this case, it was First Security Bank, Glacier Bank, and who is a very sophisticated municipal bond purchaser, and one who has actually decided that their investment arm should actually be doing a lot more municipal and local activity in terms of bonds, including TIF bonds across the state. But when we were putting that together, there was the potential for Tiger funds and other large grant funds to be able to maybe make a massive inroad into that huge amount of infrastructure need in that area, particularly the road system. So if that were to happen, the match for that, the only source for match for that kind of a bond would have been taxing or refinancing. So if, again, the next piece was, well, we better leave that option open, and that option would have to be a senior bond. So we were able to talk to the purchaser and allow the first, that 3-party bond to be a subordinate to a future bond should one come up that would be a district-wide improvement. The second one time around, we're looking at the next phases of Scott Street Village, phases 2 and 3. That's what's before you today. The same way, we looked at the same thing. The Tiger grant probably won't be an opportunity that we'll see this year or next year, but it still could come up. The purchaser of the bond, again, First Security Bank, Glacier Bank, is willing to take another subordinate position to a yet unknown bond. They would have to be part of that, so they would have to have a seat at the table to agree that if we were able to do that larger one, that they have the ability to discuss that and assure that their investments are left the way they hope to be and as strong as they as they were when they decided to purchase them. That make any sense? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pia. Ms. Jones?
So that really helps having a frame of reference for the Tiger grant, which I just hadn't heard that or processed that before. I guess I'm looking at page 3 of the document, and it says estimate of tax increment, satisfaction of additional bonds test, and under that it says the city reserved the right to issue additional bonds, including senior-subordinate bonds. So is that an inclusive category, meaning senior and subordinate bonds, or is a senior subordinate bond one product?
It's the greater product. It's the one that would be that one that would be senior to the two that we got there. So that would be the senior to these subordinate.
Okay, so there are senior bonds and then subordinate bonds.
Correct.
And the senior bond gets priority in getting paid first.
Yes.
Okay, and then the other question I had was 110% of the maximum principal and interest requirements. Could you just explain that, please?
The more common term for that is coverage. And you probably ran into that term if you purchased a house, that they want to know that, we'll just turn it as a house mortgage for a second, it's a little more familiar, that when you go to a bank or a lending institution, they're going to want to see that your income is slightly greater than your bond payment, in this area, your loan payment. In this case, it's the same kind of thing. They want to be able to see that there is a minimum amount of income in the district, in this case, over and above what the bond payment would be. In this particular case, it is 110% or 1.1 coverage would be the lingo that would be used in the bond arena. Oftentimes, we have seen in other districts, we've seen 1.25 coverage. That's probably the most common. There were reasons why Glacier Bank decided to, and these are their terms, to go to a 1.1 coverage in this, for this, particularly the Scott Street project, and that is because they were involved early on in this property, after the original owners went bankrupt. They were carrying paper on it, so they have a lot of interest in trying to make sure that this thing happens, and decided that was an appropriate amount. That was a decision made by a very sophisticated bond purchaser.
So I understand that you've got enough plus extra to cover the payments in the long run. But it also looks like by the time consumer direct payments start hitting, the income to this district will be $765,000 a year, and currently it's $87,000 a year. So we certainly make the 110% coverage, but actually there's a lot of capacity left. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Von Osberg.
Gwen took my thunder, actually. I was going to highlight those same exact numbers, and just, it's, I think, important for you. I'm particularly supportive of this project. This is in Heidi and my ward, and we talk about TIF projects being but-for projects, and we've got a really important housing project going in here that would not work if we weren't making the investment in the type of infrastructure, water, sewer, sidewalks, that's being made to support an affordable housing project. And it's really important to recognize the kind of numbers Gwen's talking about, that in fiscal year 2017, we saw 87,000 roughly of increment come into the district. And now with the completion of the consumer direct building and in the first phase of Edgel, we're seeing $765,000 of increment come in. So as Gwen pointed out, and as you confirmed, Chris, I can't think of how to formulate this as a question, but I think it's important that we really hit this theme of there's substantial margin above the 110% coverage requirement that is associated with the 2015 and 2017 bonds. Which the 110% comes out to about 180,000. As I said, 765,000 of increment, so comfortable margin above it, which is part of why this is a safe, risk-averse thing to do, and also facilitates a really important project for the community. Did I get that correct?
You did, and as an avid Jeopardy watcher, we actually recorded each week and watched several in a row at home. I can give you the question. Will MRA be able to quickly respond to other projects that have been identified in the master plan and the urban renewal plan regarding sewer, water, and streets that are so needed in that area with cash on hand? And the answer would be the one that you just gave.
And in this analogy, I am Alex Trebek, and I'm not sure what to do with that. Mr. DeBari.
Hopefully a quicker question. So I was curious, so as you hinted at, and well, you stated, I guess, and Brian mentioned too, I mean, there are a lot of infrastructure needs in this part of town, and hence one of the reasons why we created the urban renewal district there. And to the point about coverage, so if there was a bond let that became a senior, what kind of coverage would be required in that kind of a circumstance? And do you foresee that potentially being a problem with the numbers that Gwen and Brian talked about? Likely not, but it would be good to get your read. And the second question is, would First Security Bank have veto power over a project or associated with a bond that might become senior?
The answer to the first question is that it would be the purchaser of the bond that would set the coverage. The two bonds that are existing at the 1.1 would not interfere with that decision. That would be a separate and unto its own negotiation of rate, term, and coverage, and any other additional protections or risk type things that happen to be put in there. But those would be the main ones. So the current bonds will not interfere with a subsequent bond. And the other way around. The other one was, would First Security Bank, Glacier Corps have veto power? No. They would have a seat at the table and be able to assure that whatever package was put forward met their criteria. I think we would all go to the same table understanding that they have certain needs for protecting their investment. And that's actually pretty well spelled out in the bond documents of what they can and cannot do.
Further questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Bean, for coming down of a cold Monday evening. Anyone in the audience care to comment? All right, seeing none, we will have a roll call vote.
Okay, this is on a resolution authorizing TIF, tax increment financing revenue bonds for the Scott Street Village Phases 2 and 3. We start the roll call with CARES. CARES votes yes. DeBari. DeBari votes yes. Hedall. Hedall votes yes. Hess. Hess votes yes. Jones. Jones votes yes. Marlar. Marlar votes yes. Van Lossberg. Van Lossberg votes yes. West. West votes yes. And Becerra. Becerra votes yes. Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 9 items and 3 absent.
And the motion passes. We have no additional committee reports this evening. We have no items of new business. Are there any additional items to be referred? Seeing none of those, any miscellaneous communications, reports, petitions, or announcements?
I have one.
Ms. Rabine.
I just want to announce that next week is the last meeting of the year, and City Council traditionally has a small gathering to celebrate that and to also, this time, welcome new council members and honor exiting council members. So that's going to take place next week, Monday, the 18th, over next door, the Thomas Mar Bar at 5:30. There'll be hors d'oeuvres. And there'll likely be a quorum of city council members present, so we're announcing it, and it's a public meeting, so there you go.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. If there's no other business before the body, as always, I thank you for your service. We will be adjourned.